You stand up to get a glass of water, and before your feet even hit the kitchen tile, you hear it. Nails on the floor behind you. Soft, fast, familiar. You turn around, and there they are. Your dog. Again. Bathroom, kitchen, hallway, bedroom. Same shadow, same eyes, same quiet decision to follow you everywhere you go. Most people think they understand this behavior. They say your dog follows you because they want food, or attention, or maybe they're just needy. Maybe they're bored. Maybe they've learned you're the person who opens doors, fills bowls, and makes interesting things happen. And yes, sometimes that's part of it. But that's not the real reason. Not the deepest one. Because what looks like a cute little habit is, in many cases, one of the most sophisticated social behaviors any animal on Earth has ever evolved with humans. And most owners never realize what they're actually looking at. Let's start with the obvious theory. Your dog follows you because you control the resources. You are the food source, the walk source, the treat source, the source of movement, novelty, and permission. On the surface, that explanation makes perfect sense. If one creature in the house controls access to everything meaningful, of course the dog is going to keep an eye on them. Simple, efficient, practical. But here's the problem. Dogs don't follow every source of value in the same way. They don't trail the food bowl after it's filled. They don't stare at the leash once the walk is over. And they don't usually shadow every human equally, even in homes where multiple people feed, pet, and care for them. In many households, there is one person the dog tracks with strange consistency. One person whose footsteps matter more. One person they get up for, reposition for, wait outside doors for. That's not random. And it's not just opportunism. What's happening is much deeper than that. Because following is not only about getting something. Sometimes it's about staying connected to someone. Behavior researchers have known for years that dogs don't just live with humans. They orient around them. In attachment terms, many dogs treat a trusted owner as what psychologists call a secure base. That phrase matters. A secure base is not just someone you like. It is the individual whose presence changes how safe the world feels. The one whose nearness lowers uncertainty. The one you return to when something feels unfamiliar. The one you check in with before you decide whether a situation is safe enough to explore. That changes everything. Because when your dog follows you from room to room, they may not be asking for entertainment at all. They may be doing something far more fundamental. Monitoring the location of the being their nervous system has learned to trust most. And this is where most people get it wrong. They hear that and assume it means dependence, fragility, clinginess. But attachment is not weakness. In biology, secure attachment is what allows confidence. The infant who uses a parent as a secure base explores more. The animal with a trusted companion regulates stress better. Safety is not the opposite of independence. Safety is often what makes independence possible. That's why many dogs will leave a room full of toys, sunlight, and comfortable surfaces just to lie near the doorway of the bathroom while you shower. From a human point of view, that looks ridiculous. From the dog's point of view, it may be entirely logical. The most important variable in the environment just moved behind a closed door. But that's only part of the story. Because attachment explains the behavior psychologically, it does not yet explain why it feels so automatic, so immediate, so persistent. For that, you have to go deeper into the chemistry of bonding itself. When you and your dog interact in warm, familiar ways, eye contact, touch, calm vocal tones, shared routines, something remarkable happens inside both of your bodies. Hormones and neurotransmitters associated with safety and social bonding begin to shift. Oxytocin gets most of the attention, and for good reason. It is one of the central molecules involved in trust, affiliation, and emotional closeness. But it doesn't work alone. Cortisol, the body's major stress hormone, can also change. Heart rate can change. Vigilance can change. Muscle tension can change. Attention itself can change. In other words, your dog may not merely enjoy being near you. Your dog may become physiologically different when near you. Think about that for a second. This behavior may not be the canine equivalent of "I'm bored, so I'll come too." It may be the nervous system's version of "that's where regulation is." And the science gets stranger. Because proximity is not just emotional. It's informational. Dogs are exceptional readers of human behavior. They notice posture, speed, breath, direction, facial tension, tone shifts, routines, interruptions to routines. Long before you consciously register that you are stressed, distracted, late, sad, or restless, your dog may already be tracking it in the way you move through space. Following you is not only a bonding behavior. Sometimes it is surveillance of the most important emotional weather system in their world. That's why dogs often shadow their owners more closely during periods of change. A move, a breakup, a new baby, remote work, grief, illness, a shift in schedule. Even subtle instability can change the dog's proximity behavior. Not because the dog has suddenly become dramatic, but because the environment has changed and they are using the most reliable social reference point they have, you. Now here's where it gets really interesting. A lot of people assume this closeness is something humans projected onto dogs, as if dogs just happen to be nearby, and we romanticize the rest. But evolution suggests almost the opposite. Over thousands of years, the dogs that were best at reading us, tolerating us, approaching us, and staying socially connected to us gained an enormous survival advantage. The friendlier animals did better. The ones more comfortable around human camps, human routines, human signals, human unpredictability, they were the ones that remained close enough to benefit. Generations passed. Selection did the rest. So when your dog follows you down a hallway, you are not only looking at a personality quirk. You may be watching the product of an ancient evolutionary filter that favored human-oriented attention again and again and again. Wolves can cooperate. Wolves can bond. Wolves can track movement. But domestic dogs were shaped in a way that made human presence itself unusually important. Not just useful, important. That is a profound distinction, because a dog that is deeply human-oriented doesn't merely react to commands. It organizes part of its world around where you are. And that may explain one of the strangest things owners report. Sometimes the dog follows them and then doesn't even want anything. No food, no toy, no petting. They just walk into the room, turn around once, and lie down. As if the mission is complete. As if arriving near you is the point. Maybe it was. One of the most overlooked truths about attachment, in both humans and animals, is that proximity itself can be the reward. Not what happens there, not what you get there. Just the reduction of uncertainty that comes from being close enough to monitor, reconnect, and settle. Your dog may not be following you to ask. Your dog may be following you to confirm. You're there. We're still together. Nothing important has changed. The system can stand down. And once you see the behavior that way, it becomes difficult to unsee. The dog by the bathroom door. The dog outside the kitchen. The dog who stands up from a dead sleep because you walked into another room. The dog who watches you fold laundry as if it's a mission of national importance. It stops looking random. It starts looking like a relationship expressed through movement. But here's the twist almost nobody talks about. Sometimes the dogs who follow most closely are not the least confident. Sometimes they are the most bonded. There is a difference between anxious shadowing and secure proximity, and owners often confuse the two. One is frantic, hypervigilant, unable to settle, distressed by every separation. The other is calm, quiet, rhythmic. The dog simply prefers to be where you are, not because they are panicking, but because closeness itself has become one of the most stable and rewarding parts of their day. And that distinction matters, because the meaning of the behavior changes everything about how you should interpret it. There's another layer to this that makes the behavior even more fascinating, because the longer two beings live closely together, the more their internal rhythms can begin to influence each other. Not in some mystical sense, in a biological one. Anyone who has lived with a dog for years knows this intuitively. Your dog seems to know when you're about to leave before you touch your keys. They know when something is wrong before you say a word. They know the difference between your normal pacing and your anxious pacing, your ordinary silence and your heavy silence, your relaxed breathing and your restless breathing. That sensitivity is not accidental. Dogs are among the most socially attuned animals humans have ever lived beside. They are constantly sampling information from us. Micro-movements, facial shifts, tone, speed, direction, even pauses. And once a bond is established, that information does not stay external. It can begin to shape the dog's own internal state. So when your dog follows you everywhere, part of what may be happening is co-regulation. Their nervous system is not just interested in your location. It is calibrating against it. And this is where the behavior stops being merely cute and starts becoming extraordinary. Because co-regulation is one of the deepest functions of social bonding. Human infants do it with parents. Close partners do it with each other. Bonded animals do it within trusted groups. One nervous system stabilizes in the presence of another. Calm spreads. Tension spreads. Safety spreads. Alarm spreads. The body is always asking, am I alone with this feeling, or is there a stable other nearby? For many dogs, you are that stable other, which means the dog under your desk while you work, the dog in the hallway while you brush your teeth, the dog who gets up the second you stand, may not be following because they're obsessed with your activities. They may be following because your presence organizes their sense of safety in real time. That would explain something owners notice all the time but rarely think about carefully. A dog can be fast asleep, completely comfortable, seemingly deep in rest, and yet the moment you leave the room, one ear flicks, the head lifts, and seconds later they are walking behind you. That is not just curiosity, that is priority. Out of everything in the environment, your movement mattered enough to interrupt rest. Think about how significant that is. Sleep is valuable. Comfort is valuable. Warmth is valuable. And yet your relocation still wins. But there's something even more surprising. Following behavior is often strongest not when a dog wants something from you, but when nothing at all is happening. No leash, no meal, no excitement, no obvious reward, just ordinary life. You walk from the couch to the laundry room. They follow. You go wash your hands. They follow. You sit down somewhere new. 10 seconds later, they relocate too. Why? Because attachment is measured most clearly in the boring moments. Anyone can be exciting when treats are involved. Anyone can be relevant when the front door opens. The real signal is what an animal does when there is no obvious payoff. When they choose your proximity in the absence of novelty, that tells you the closeness itself has value. And that may be the most revealing part of all. Your dog may not be trailing you because you are the source of action. They may be trailing you because you are the center of orientation, the place from which the rest of the house makes sense. Now let's go even deeper, because there's an evolutionary reason this feels so natural to them. Dogs did not become dogs simply by living near humans. They became dogs by adapting to a world in which being tuned in to human behavior mattered. Again and again, the animals that could tolerate human presence, interpret human signals, anticipate human routines, and remain socially close gained access to food, shelter, protection, and continuity. Over time, that doesn't just create a tame animal. It creates a species unusually specialized for living inside another species' social world. That's what makes dogs different. A dog is not just an animal that can live next to a human. A dog is an animal shaped to pay attention to humans in a way that is almost absurdly intimate. To watch our faces, follow our pointing, read our tension, track our habits, seek our attention, return to us, check on us, rest near us. So your dog following you from room to room may be one of the oldest human-animal behaviors still happening in modern homes. An ancient survival strategy translated into the language of suburban hallways and apartment kitchens. And once you understand that, the behavior changes meaning. It stops being, my dog won't leave me alone. It becomes, my dog has built part of their security system around my presence. But here's where most people need to be careful. Not all following is the same. Sometimes it is healthy attachment. Sometimes it is overdependence. Sometimes it is normal breed tendency. Some dogs are simply more human-focused than others. Companion breeds, herding breeds, working breeds bred for close cooperation, all can show especially strong shadowing behavior because staying close to a person was literally part of what they were selected to do. That means the meaning of the behavior depends on the texture of it. A relaxed dog who follows you, settles nearby, naps, and remains generally comfortable when you are out of sight is showing something very different from a dog who trembles, pants, vocalizes, scratches at doors, cannot eat alone, and spirals whenever you disappear. One is proximity. The other may be distress. One says, I like being where you are. The other says, I don't know how to cope when you're gone. That distinction matters enormously because love and anxiety can look similar from a distance. But here's the part almost no one talks about, and it may be the most important part of this entire video. If your dog has followed you closely for months or years, and one day that behavior suddenly changes, do not ignore it. Because stable patterns matter. Dogs live through routine. Their habits are not random decorations around life. They are part of how they communicate. And when a deeply consistent behavior disappears, there is usually a reason. Sometimes the reason is environmental. A new pet, a baby, visitors in the house, a move, construction noise, a sudden change in your work schedule. Stress can alter proximity behavior in both directions. Some dogs become clingier, others withdraw. What looks small to you can feel massive to them, because dogs experience the home less as a set of explanations and more as a pattern of familiar signals. Change the pattern, and the behavior changes too. But sometimes the cause is physical, and this is where owners need to pay attention. A dog who stops following you may not have become independent overnight. They may be tired, sore, nauseous, in pain. A dog with joint discomfort may no longer want to get up repeatedly and trail from room to room. A dog with sensory changes may seem less engaged with your movement. An older dog with cognitive decline may begin losing the routines that once structured their day. In other words, when a bonded behavior vanishes, that absence can be information. Your dog does not explain themselves with language. They explain themselves with patterns, with what they keep doing, what they stop doing, and how those rhythms shift over time. That's why behavior is never just behavior. It is the surface expression of something deeper: emotion, health, expectation, security, discomfort, confusion, connection. So if your dog has always been your shadow and suddenly starts isolating, or stops getting up when you move, or seems strangely indifferent to your location, notice it. Not with panic, with attention. Sometimes it means nothing more than a temporary change. Sometimes it means your dog is asking for help in the only language they have. And now we arrive at the real meaning of all this. The next time you stand up and hear those footsteps behind you, remember what you're actually witnessing. Not just habit, not just opportunism, not just a comic little personality quirk. You are watching an animal who has built you into their map of safety. An animal whose ancestors survived by staying close to human beings. An animal whose body may calm in your presence. An animal that has learned, through thousands of ordinary moments, that when you move, it matters. That where you are is relevant. That being near you reduces uncertainty. That following you is, in its own quiet way, a form of trust. They are not merely tracking your movement through the house. They are tracking their connection to you. And honestly, that may be why this behavior hits people so hard when they finally understand it. Because it reframes the entire relationship. The dog behind you in the hallway is not always asking for more. Sometimes they are expressing something profound with no words at all. You are my person. You are my reference point. You are where I settle. You are where I check in. You are where the world makes the most sense. That is an astonishing thing for one species to become to another. So the next time you can't go to the bathroom alone, or you turn around and nearly trip over 70 pounds of silent devotion standing 2 inches behind you, try seeing it differently. Your dog is not just following you. Your dog is choosing you. And if this changed the way you see that little shadow at your heels, subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments. Does your dog follow you everywhere, or is there one room they refuse to enter? And if you want to understand why your dog stares at you for no reason sometimes, the answer is even stranger than this one. If this changed the way you see your dog, subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments. Does your dog follow you everywhere, or is there one room they refuse to enter?